Can science explain one of the biggest mysteries ever? Are the tropics hunting grounds for aliens? And what happened to Flight 19? Today we test the believability of the Bermuda Triangle.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
Oh my God. Bermuda, come on, Bermuda.
Look at us doing a big topic. Are we trying to get listeners or something?
I don't know.
You want to be topical? Not that this is, relevant.
Not topical, but it's huge.
Figuratively and literally.
Actually, yeah, we'll talk about that. But, this is where you put on your button-up shirt, your sunscreen, and you head out to Bermuda.
That's what you did last year, right? 2 years ago?
It is. No, it was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was like in the triangle. But yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Bermuda Triangle. But first we need to thank our newest patrons, which is Gertie, Nicole, Caleb, Gabriella, and Rhonda. Oh, and also Mr. Class 6.
Mr. Class 6.
Which definitely sounds like he's part of MI6.
We probably don't have their address, I would assume. It's some random desert place in Nevada.
That's weird. It's like next to Area 51. There's like a little P.O. box.
A little P.O. box. They should have P.O. box there for the aliens.
I want to send them a sticker for their alien ship.
Just send him a postcard.
We don't have a P.O. box. We have our address for the building.
When you were on the cruise, were you like up there with your compass and like binoculars, and were people giving you strange looks as you're trying to diagnose this triangle?
No, I tried to blend in as much as possible. I got a lot of ice cream at the buffet.
Okay. But for all these new patrons, thank you so much for joining, supporting the podcast. Tons and tons and tons and tons of extra content out there for you. So we hope you enjoy it and dive in there, start listening, comments on the posts that you like. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's tons and tons of content about the Bermuda Triangle. So let's talk about some of that right now. There's a lot of stuff. I've got, you want to hear my sources?
Oh, yeah.
This list is just, I was like, holy shit.
Wikipedia, my mom, Neopets,
No.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I actually used a physical book for this. Brevton's Phasmagoria.
Did you get a paper cut doing that?
Yeah,
Lifting a real book?
Cut myself on the paper. And then I found Popular Mechanics, Marine Insight, National Ocean Service, Science Alert, Live Science, Aerotech Solutions, thequarterfiles.com, and the U.S. National Institute, and also historychannel.com.
All right.
Yeah.
You probably got all the alien stuff from History Channel.
No, not as much as you think. A lot of actually the Quarter Files is pretty.
Well, that makes sense too, based on the name.
Oh, Quester Files. I say Quarter Files. So this is not a comprehensive list because it's not every piece of evidence about the Bermuda Triangle. Because if it was, this would be like a hardcore history episode, like 5 hours long.
You would love that.
Me?
I
would listen to it.
You would love
that. I would listen to it if I wasn't presenting it. I don't want to hear my voice that long, honestly. But this is almost like the ultimate Bermuda Triangle, like sampler at Applebee's.
Okay.
Those are good. They're really good.
Doing the 2 for 22?
Got all the best stuff. 2 for 22? I'm sorry, what?
That's what it used to be. It probably isn't anymore.
It's like 2 for 500 right now. Inflation is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, big question, headliner, what is the Bermuda Triangle and what is happening?
It's the Michigan Lake Triangle that just went on vacation out of Michigan for the summer.
I'll tell you what, I didn't realize how actually big the Bermuda Triangle was. The Bermuda Triangle is also known as the Devil's Triangle, and it's a huge piece of the ocean. And the 3 points that connect the triangle are Miami, Florida, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the island of Bermuda. And the triangle, I said, is huge. It's 500,000 square miles.
Oh my gosh. So 500,000.
Yes, 500,000. But I mean, either way you slice it, that's pretty big.
I feel like the larger it is, the more likely it can, like the bigger it is, the more likely things are going to happen there because you're covering more surface area.
Whoa. Don't jump the gun.
I have no opinion. You can sway me either way. I am right down the middle.
Pretty neutral about the triangle.
Yeah.
Do you remember what else happened in Puerto Rico?
It was the chupacabra?
Yeah, the Puerto Rican chupacabra.
Well, yeah.
Because there's two kinds.
Yeah.
There's the Puerto Rican one. There's also the Texas one. I think the Texas one was the dog with mange. And the Puerto Rican was almost like a kangaroo thing.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Off the coast of Miami is also called Hurricane Alley. Almost like the middle of the country is Tornado Alley. And that's where literal tons of treasure from Portuguese galleons have sunk into the ocean from hurricanes. Powerful weather has been a staple in this area for many hundreds of years, if not more than that. The term Bermuda Triangle wasn't coined until a magazine article printed a mysterious story about the infamous Flight 19. And that was until 1964. Didn't write that down off the dome. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most mysterious places on Earth where tragedy has befallen many people and where many have vanished.
Yeah. Oh, that's the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. That's my good sound effect, yeah.
You're looking at a triangle where people are set to disappear.
Dude.
Let me take a puff of my cigarette.
What a good impression of him.
Rod Serling?
Yes, what a good Rod Serling. Have you practiced that?
No,
That's really good.
don't think it's particularly that great.
I'm blown away. I'm seeing Rod Serling right here.
Oh, a jaw. A John Lips. How nice.
We should do oh, you know what'd be really cool? Listen, your first thing is going to say no, but what if we do a streamathon, right? For 24 hours for charity, and we watch The Twilight Zone and comment on it for 24 hours.
Oh, like a Mystery Science Theater?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is the charity our bank account?
No, I don't know. We have to talk more about that. Maybe.
The charities pay off our second camera.
Maybe we'll go 50-50 out with the charity. I don't know. I don't know. That'd be kind of fun though, wouldn't it? I know you love it. I love it too.
I do. When I was a child, I used to really look forward to
July 4th.
July 4th
yes.
And
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah, I feel like I've said it 3 or 4 times, and I don't think you know it, but whenever I explain my favorite one about the guy from Venus where they're trapped in the bar.
I know what you're talking about.
You know the episode?
Yeah, vaguely. I don't remember it specifically.
Okay.
Are they trapped in it's like a street, right? Or it's a bar?
It's a bar.
Yeah. And it ends with they lift up the hat and there's
He's from Venus.
Yeah.
And the other guy was from Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Apparently they're not cool.
I told you about this before. My favorite's the one with the devil.
Yeah.
Locked in, and the guy lets him out and he spends his life hunting this thing in.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I think it's the Howling Man.
You're right.
So, back to the Bermuda Triangle. 5 triangle fun facts. Number 1. Christopher Columbus mentions the triangle in his journey as he passed through the magnetic anomalies began to arise in the compass on the ship and would not find north.
There's a lot of things he couldn't find.
Well, he thought he was going somewhere. Everyone gets lost.
So the Bermuda Triangle, he can just blame that. That's why I didn't get there. I was supposed to be there.
He's like, Montebello. I was looking for that place. He also wrote in his notes that the stars started to move in the sky when he was in the triangle, which is very interesting.
Okay.
Number 2, the Bermuda Triangle is inconveniently next to many, many popular shipping lanes.
That is inconvenient, but also,
Yeah. Number 3, when compasses go through the triangle, they don't point magnetic north, but instead point true north.
What is the difference between magnetic north and true north?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't know.
All right, I'm going to read you the answer that we got. True north is the direction of the geographic North Pole, which is the point where the Earth's rotational axis intersects its surface.
Okay.
It's a fixed point on the globe. Magnetic north is the direction that a compass needle points to as it aligns with Earth's magnetic field. The magnetic North Pole is less stable than the geographic North Pole and shifts over time in response to changes in the Earth's core.
That makes sense. I've heard that before. I don't know how far off they are, but apparently it points to true north in the Bermuda Triangle. Number 4, the Bermuda Triangle is home to one of the deepest trenches on Earth. I think it's the Mariana
Trench.
Yeah. And number 5, a minimum of 1,000 people have died in the Bermuda Triangle in the past 100 years. That's a good number.
But it's 500,000 miles of the ocean. It's a big space. If it was like the size of a pool, I'd say stop swimming in the pool. But it, you got boats, you got planes, parasailers, sharks.
Yeah, that's true. If you look at the size, listen, it's a more impressive number than you think it is.
It sucks. I feel bad for all 1,000, unless they were bad people.
No, they were just normal people.
Okay.
Maybe some were pirates. I don't know. So we've got some natural/scientific reasons for what is so weird about the Bermuda Triangle. So the triangle may not be that mysterious, unfortunately. With some scientific explanations, there might have been some answers to some of the mysteries behind the triangle. This is a picture that shows how the warm currents are coming off the Gulf of Mexico into the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay.
I saw it was a cool thermal map. So the triangle has a very powerful current running through it. A current is essentially like a powerful moving river that is underneath the ocean. If you're familiar with Finding Nemo, you remember that the turtle Crush, who wanted to hang 10 on the EAC, or East Australian Current, well, the triangle has arguably the strongest current in the world, the Gulf Stream. And that can cause extreme rapids in the ocean and even change the weather. The Gulf Stream is a stream that takes water from the Gulf of Mexico through the Atlantic Ocean into the Norwegian Sea. And this can be the reason why a lot of ships get dragged and pushed way off course or even dragged under the rapids in the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Intent.
Ride the wave, little brah.
Yeah. That was my visual reference there.
No, it works.
Yeah. So currents, I think, is a very valid reason. It does control a lot of things in nature. I don't know if it's the only reason. There's a lot of things that maybe building up are the reason. The next one I don't give a lot of credence to, and that is the idea that methane gas. So it has been proven there's leaks of methane gas in the Bermuda Triangle. It does kind of bubble up from areas in it, and these bubbles, they rise up and they may cause like A, suction and drag from the bubbles going to the water behind it, and B, the methane can make the water density more dense and therefore make it harder for boats to stay afloat.
Oh, so sinking.
Could be. Now, two factors are in no way powerful enough to bring down any seaworthy ship we have, even in the 40s.
Seaworthy.
Yeah.
So do they actually like pop like bubbles at the top of the water, at the surface of the water?
They do, yeah.
What if someone's just like leaning over about to light a cigarette and then...
I mean, that would be very unfortunate. I think it probably would explode.
Hey.
They're also really tiny bubbles. It's not like a huge like sea monster
just
bubbles.
A tiny cigarette. Just a little
small one.
Just a little guy.
A lot of people put a lot of credence in the methane bubbles. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I mean, you have no basis of it, right? But not really. But I've seen a couple articles talking about it, but it really, from the science I've seen about it, it doesn't really make sense that this is like the answer.
Do they attribute it to sinking?
Yeah, a lot of people do. Some people attribute to sinking. Some people attribute to also weird phenomenon. They'll say that high density of methane in the atmosphere might be part of the plane disappearances too, causing delusion in the pilots. I don't think there's enough there to do that.
Well, it's not like they'd be breathing the air.
Right, exactly.
But the people on the ship, maybe.
Maybe.
Could it make stars move?
That's a good question. I think probably the most powerful argument is navigational errors. According to the USCG, the United States Coast Guard, the main reason for all the vehicles being lost in the area come down to imminent weather, unsafe conditions, and actual vehicles themselves. One of the main theories behind Flight 19, more to come on that, are the disappearances that they really just got disoriented and ran out of gas and crashed in the ocean. Also, the fact that this is such a you touched about this earlier, such a heavily trafficked and huge area increases the odds that something would happen.
Yeah, but it's also a little bit of a weak theory that, all this stuff just happened just because, they got disoriented.
Yes, and also compass failure. But the one guy you'll see in the story, he gets really disoriented. Now, because this area is so heavily prone to tropical storms and hurricanes, the odds that the ships traveling would be vulnerable to these powerful weather shifts because they didn't have access to much better weather prediction technology of today And that's another reason why we don't hear about this phenomenon really anymore.
Do we know? Like, can we go back to when some of these ships disappeared and go back in records and be like, oh, that was when this hurricane was forming?
Yeah, it's definitely part of it. There are a lot of storms that line up with the Bermuda Triangle disappearances.
Ah.
But the main thing about a lot of these ships is that they don't ever see like the vessel again.
Yeah, it's because it's a hurricane, bro.
Well, like they don't see them like later, like parts of it floating, like it's just gone. But I think a lot of that has to do with the Gulf Stream and that powerful river pulling things into the ocean.
The ocean is still just like, it's so hard for me to conceptualize like all of the ocean. Because when I think of a map, I think of the face where you see all the continents, and you're like, yeah, there's some water. But then it's just like, if you think about flipping it, it's like, there's so much water.
There is.
And I don't know if this is still true or if it's just something people post and there's no weight behind it. Where people are like, we've only explored 5% of the ocean. I don't actually know if that's true, but let's say 10. Let's double it for fun.
Yeah.
That still means that 90% of the ocean is just completely, like, we have no idea what's going on.
I know the answer. It's 20%.
20?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go 80.
That's for real.
80%.
80% is unknown.
Yeah, so that's where all these ships are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, the Titanic thing just happened not too long ago. The submarine trying to get down to the Titanic.
Yeah.
And it exploded.
Yeah, what about imploded? But
yeah.
Well, what about it?
That happened.
Yeah, but we know where the Titanic is.
That's true. We do know that one. I don't know what my point was. I think
spooky.
I think that is dangerous is my point.
I think what you're trying to say is that all these other ships were using Xbox controllers and they ran out of batteries. And they're like, oh, shit. Going down with the system.
Got the red ring of death in my submarine.
The red ring of death.
Did that ever happen to you? Happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I got the red ring of my son's knee stepping on it.
That happens. The next theory is magnetic fluctuation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the magnetosphere is a layer of the Earth formed with the interaction of the sun and the Earth's magnetic field and solar wind. Not spirit wind, like I said. There is a region near South America and the Gulf of Mexico where the Earth is less protected and can be affected by excess radiation, and incorrect readings can be more common there. They see lower radiation in lower parts of the atmosphere there than anywhere else. Now, because of this, it might explain why many crafts get lost in this area, but to quote the article, unfortunately, it is more than likely that they have had bad behavior of reading of their instruments, causing a drift in navigation that would take them out to, or leave them without fuel in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, end quote. So it seems that this magnetic displacement from the sun is probably not the culprit. They're saying that even though there might be some radiation here, it's not enough to really cause this many navigation errors. That it's more either the equipment itself or it's people misreading it.
It's weird that would just be here, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plane crashes elsewhere. It's not specific.
And there is an argument that the Bermuda Triangle is not really special in the amount of plane crashes. It's kind of just been a misnomer because of how weird Flight 19 was. And people really paid attention to it after that.
Maybe you'll get to this with Flight 19 or other things in your notes. What brought the Bermuda Triangle to such prominence? Because this is something that I knew about when I was very young. You know, it's just something people said. Like, I feel like casual fans or casual, like people who don't love horror, people that don't love the paranormal or the bizarre, they know about the Bermuda Triangle. Like, I think it's up there with like UFOs, Bigfoot, Bermuda Triangle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, even above things like, I mean, Flat Earth has definitely jumped into that stratosphere now, pun kind of, you know, but like there's so many things that you just don't know about.
Yeah. It's a good question.
But Bermuda Triangle, I feel like is in the collective unconscious or the collective conscious of like everyone. It's like everyone knows about it. They don't know about it, but they know it exists.
Yeah. That's a really good question. A lot of it did start with Flight 19 because it was so strange. And then from there, people kind of quantifying like all the missing ships in this area and finding that they're not able to find the leftover parts of the craft that maybe have just crashed, but there's a lot of things that just vanish. And that's the weird part of it, is that they're not finding these leftovers So it seems like things vanish in the triangle.
Someone's eating them.
Maybe. I don't think
Eating
that's
them leftovers? Come on.
like a Chinese restaurant.
What does that mean?
Your Chinese leftovers.
I'm thinking like a fridge.
Yeah, okay.
Like a communal fridge
For
in an
monsters.
office.
Yeah. So last natural theory is, I don't think this is very likely. It's water spouts, which are...
They're not that powerful.
That's my whole point. They're not that powerful. They're not that big. They can be reported being like winds of 260 miles an hour and last for an hour long, but like that's like 1 in a trillion.
I guess I don't know what would happen to a boat that went directly into a water spout. I can't speak to that, but they always freaked me out, and every time I've ever looked them up, people seem to do a pretty good job of downplaying them. Kind of like those dust devils.
Dust devil, yeah.
Where it's like it looks bad, but you can it's not going to pick you up or throw you around.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a water spout is equal to that. It's just through all my own personal research that I've done, because we live by Lake Erie.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up like 2 minutes from the lake. You'd see them sometimes, and it seems really scary. But it's not. Based on what I've heard, it's not that intense. So,
yeah.
but maybe it would disorient or cause somebody to quickly adjust.
It could. It definitely could.
And then they flip over. I don't know.
I don't think it would cause a capsize, but I think you're right. It could scare some people, but it definitely doesn't happen.
Plane flying.
It doesn't get that high.
A low plane flying?
Yeah, super low plane. I think it doesn't happen anywhere near enough to cause the amount of missing ships.
Maybe just one. We'll crack one up to it. We'll give water spouts one.
One guy. But 2 out of 10. Kind of fun, but super low chance.
We gotta find what happened to the other 999.
Yeah,
we'll give the water spout one.
The next segment I have is paranormal explanations for the Bermuda Triangle and why things seem to vanish in the triangle. The first one, I'm going to be real, it's not my favorite. And it's the idea that Atlantis is underneath the triangle. The city of Atlantis.
Okay. The only way they can get new people is they got to bring them down.
Yeah.
They're increase our population.
That's right.
They recruit the Kelpies. Not the Kelpies, the Selkies, to bring them down. Or was it Kelpies?
It was Kelpies.
Kelpies to bring them down.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're foreign missionaries for Atlantis.
Yeah.
Why is there a horse in the middle of the ocean? I don't know.
Seahorse.
Maybe I should touch its mane. There's a type of seahorse. It's a hippocampus, I think.
Isn't that in your brain?
I think also that too. I think one was named after the other.
Okay.
Scientists have been scanning the triangle, and they found something, quote, grid-like sections that may look like streets of a small town, but it's over 100 miles wide. And it's located was a spot, quote, northwest of the Canary Islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Location of the following coordinates: 31, 15, 15 north, 24, 15, 30. I don't know how to follow coordinates.
Well, latitude and longitude.
Yeah, I don't know.
That helps you.
I don't know. There's always 6 numbers, but I'm like, there's only 2 kinds of lines, though. I don't get it. The only problem is that these lines are not physically there. They're just made in data.
What do you mean they're not physically there?
So they're not actually on the bottom of the ocean. These grid locking lines are not actually there. They're just kind of like, you ever take a picture of your computer?
Oh, and it's all grainy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially what happened. And though some people like David Icke like to claim that ancient city of Atlantis is absolutely in the Bermuda Triangle and using its crystal pyramid to make ships disappear, there is no actual evidence to support this claim. Yeah.
Even if it was under there, you still would have to continue on to the theory on how that's affecting boats and planes. You know what I mean? Like, it just existing and being there doesn't then equal.
King Trident is not down there like, we need some more voters.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Imagine the SEO you could do for a tourism board for Atlantis. Pretty good stuff, I think.
Yeah, if they want to go to the Bermuda Triangle. Just attach it to that. It's all good. I feel like I'm 97 years old when I take a picture of my computer screen rather than like screenshotting my phone.
Yeah, I haven't done it for a while. But
I just sent you guys something.
You did. You did, didn't you?
It was on Facebook. But yeah, I felt 97 years old. Minimum.
You took a picture of yourself too, and it was like grayed out.
One white hair appeared. It's like, all right, slow down there.
The next idea, which I'm going to be honest, I'm running down the rabbit hole a little bit here. I like the idea, though. It's that aliens are in the Bermuda Triangle. It's just aliens. That's why these things are disappearing.
Living in Atlantis.
Maybe they've got like a summer house there, and they're also sharing it with like Michigan.
Yeah, well, they're like the people that go south
snowbirds.
When it gets cold. Yeah,
snowbirds. I've considered being a snowbird when
Snow
I get
grays.
older. Yeah, that too. Same. So the triangle is next to America, heavily populated with ships and planes, but it's also extensive. But it's so extensive, it's actually kind of isolated in most parts, because it is 500 square miles.
500,000.
500,000. I'm so bad with numbers. So why would aliens be behind the strangeness behind the Bermuda Triangle? Now, I've got 5 ideas, 5 thoughts. They kind of intersect. Many reported UFOs over these waters, specifically. 2, here we go, into the rabbit hole. Eisenhower made a deal with the Greys to let them abduct people in exchange for technology. 3.
That's not attached to Bermuda Triangle, though.
Let me get to it.
Okay.
3. Pilots and sailors go missing all the time in this place and are never heard from or seen again. 4. There's a military base near the triangle. Do aliens use this base to report to give their half of the technology? 5. Is the triangle a hunting ground that aliens use to take their fill that allow them to fill their quota that Eisenhower let them have? What are you thinking?
I don't think the Eisenhower deal has to be exclusive to the Bermuda Triangle.
I think it's just a really easy place for them to hunt.
Yeah, but if do you have numbers that back up that these anomalies have been continuing the last 20 years?
No.
Then I don't think that's the case.
Okay, I guess that's fair. Do you think it could be a hunting ground at least for aliens?
No, you just said the numbers don't back that up.
No, but there are a lot of missing people and ships. Still. Last one I noted was 2017.
Okay, so they've just been chilling
5, 6
years. 7 years. Here's my thought. It's a large space, but it's also confined and well documented. And if they were to use that, it's too hot. You know what I mean? It's like you got to cool down. You got to find a new spot. Like you're raising awareness and flags if you keep taking people from this triangle. So maybe it started there, but there's no way they could do it now because it's everything. If no one left, if everybody got nabbed up, that would be the biggest news in the entire world. Yeah. Nobody who enters can leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that that's not the case.
Yeah, I went there.
Yeah, a whole cruise. Cruises go now. Maybe they're snagging people off the cruise, and people are saying they're just, that's a rounding error. They're not counting heads back on the cruise. 4,095, 4,096.
They'll leave you too.
Do you get what I'm saying though? Like, yes. I think there's
also been way less incidents. Like the amount of incidents have significantly gone down since the 60s and 70s.
I think you're trying to take an idea that I like and that works potentially, and trying to put in this peg of the Bermuda Triangle. You're putting in a triangle peg.
I really like the Eisenhower idea. Oh.
Doesn't have to be this, though.
No, it doesn't.
Mutually exclusive ideas.
That's true.
Isn't it Men in Black 2?
Is it?
Was it Men in Black 2?
I think
where the president and the tall alien make the deal?
No, it's the first one, I think.
Are you sure?
I have the pictures from the first one.
Maybe it is the first one.
Yeah. I don't know. I also like the idea that maybe Christopher Columbus, when he mentioned the stars were moving in his journal notes, maybe they were just UFOs.
Imagine so many UFOs in the sky that it looks like an entire night sky of stars is moving. That's terrifying. I really think, like, before we had significant technology, I do think that was a possibility. I think he was tripping, but
well, whatever. This last one is pretty wild, and that's the idea of wormholes in the triangle.
I'll be honest with you. I believe this more than any of the other paranormal theories.
Is there a wormhole in the Bermuda Triangle that leads to another space and time? Bruce Jernan claims that something like this happened to him. In his book, In the Fog, he describes that as he was flying through the triangle, he was enveloped by fog. And when he went through it, he found himself in a different place in time. Now, to sum up the story really quickly, he and his father flew around this dark donut cloud. And as they went in it, it became darker and it filled with flashes, not like lightning, just like flashing lights, like LEDs. And they decided the best way in or the best way out was with the way in. So they turned around and they flew out. Now, as it left this cloud, the fog turned into these long horizontal lines. And the farther they got through these lines, they noticed that they eventually disappeared. Now, he thinks that this was a portal to another dimension, to another realm, because he said when he was going through it, the compasses were losing all kinds of their ability to work, and it was very disorienting in the cloud, and also he felt like a sickness. But that's essentially his story.
So he didn't go somewhere else?
Not really.
Not at all, technically. He turned around.
Yeah, it's almost like, have you ever seen like Pacific Rim?
No.
They go, oh, you haven't? Okay, so they go through this like portal in Pacific Rim, and it's kind of like what he talked about with this cloud of like flashing lights, but like he like stopped, put the brakes on, and turned around.
See, it sounds just like the Langoliers to me.
Little girl?
I'm not doing the little girl. No, you can go back and listen. I think it was the Michigan Lake Triangle.
Yeah.
We did that. That's what it sounds like, because they see like this big thing that they fly into.
I agree. No one else has talked about this.
That's because they're all gone.
And his story has changed several times.
Yeah.
Like in one instance, he claimed seeing aliens, and in another instance, there was the first instance he didn't claim that at all.
One time it was LED lights, one time it was twinkle lights.
Yeah, like his story is all kind of.
It's because he turned around. All the other people that could report it went through it. They went in the name of science, and now they're gone forever. And he turned around.
I'm surprised
like
you buy this one so much.
Well, I don't buy that story. I like the theory of dimensions.
I just don't.
Think about the Bigfoot story, where the Bigfoot opened that dimension. What if there's like one water creature that has interdimensional abilities, and it's not like aliens like examining people. It's just like one spot, and it just like grabs people out of the dimension.
Okay, it's an interesting idea.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a creature. It could just be a rift in,
Yeah, just like one open rift.
Like just a hot spot, just like a paranormal hot spot.
Yeah, it's maybe like 50 million thousand miles long.
Well, no. People, I feel like it's a very convenient way of explaining it, right? Like you're just using those 3 points and you're saying it's kind of in between there.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the entire triangle is strange. I think that's just the best way, because there's no other landmarks. It's just otherwise you'd be using 3 coordinates and nobody would be able to conceptualize that.
I guess that's fair, to like some random point in the ocean.
Yeah, I don't think the entire 500,000 is strange. There could be like 1 square mile. That's just
that's a fun thought.
And you're lucky your crew is just went
past it.
Yeah,
I feel like I told you this in the time, but on the cruise, we saw another cruise ship like pass us.
It was you guys from a different dimension.
I don't think so.
Do we have one of these? Okay. Attention, if you look to your left, you will see the demon parallel dimension, the 1 square mile of paranormal happenings in the Bermuda Triangle. And to your right are a couple of dolphins.
Yeah, you're right. It was weird. It was like there was like a carnival of hell like poking out of the ocean. It was weird.
Yeah.
I wanted to go.
I don't think the entire thing, that's in summary. Yeah. I don't think the entire triangle is strange. It could just be one portion of it.
I think it's an interesting theory. So now we are at the best part.
Flight 19?
No, not there yet.
You're going to tease our entire audience.
We're going to talk
You're going to say Flight 19 times before we find out what happened.
We're going to talk about boats disappearing first.
Okay.
Which I think it's the ocean.
It is the ocean.
Yeah.
Water.
Was
that the end of your statement there?
That's my fucking
it's
thesis.
Ocean.
Yeah, it's the ocean. It's my argumentative point. It's water though. But it's salty water. And then you know what's in there? Jellyfish.
Yes.
Demons. I still think we should get a jellyfish container. I'm not going to feed it. I'd watch them starve.
That's messed up. What do you feed it?
I don't know.
Children.
Shrimp.
Children in dreams.
Probably, yeah. That's what they eat in the ocean. So the first ship is the USS Wasp. This is a quote. The 509-ton, 117-foot sloop of war. Sloop is a type of ship. 117-foot sloop of war, Wasp, was built at Newport, Massachusetts, and commissioned in early 1814. A brief but distinguished career marked it as an epic battle with an MS Reindeer, and the capture prize ended sometime after 21 September of 1814.
21 September of 1814?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you say it, Charlie?
No, it's not how I would say it. This is a quote. When the Wasp captured the 18-gun brig...
It captured
it.
Is it pirate?
I think that's more common in wartime.
Like, this is a raid.
They take those ships.
You get it?
A raid?
It's a Wasp.
Oh my God. I didn't get it. It's pretty good. Put a prize crew aboard the Atlanta under the command of Midshipman David Gisner. He left the Wasp Company on the 22nd and reached Savannah, Georgia in the early November. And this was the last official American sighting of the Wasp. Throughout the first half of 1850, various newspapers have reported rumors of the Wasp sightings and even that the ship had been captured by the British. Now, the Wasp was never returned home. However, it was soon apparent that after the War of 1812 ended, the ship had never been captured, but had simply vanished at sea, perhaps a victim of a storm. In June 1825, an article in Niles Weekly Register suggested that a tale told off the coast of Africa may have been about the Wasp. The gossip spoke of the survivors of a whaling wreck in November of 1824 of another ship. Now, some 10 years earlier, the landing of hundreds of sailors they took to be British, and after a pitched battle to the death of all the foreign sailors, that tale was then and still remains debated. Theodore Roosevelt summed it up in his history of the Naval War of 1812. He said, quote, "How she perished, no one ever knew. All that is certain is that she was never seen again." End quote. So there's a bunch of theories about this Wasp. Some people think that it vanished in the Bermuda Triangle, possibly during a storm. Some people think it was captured. Some people think it was turned to a whaling ship. But no one ever really found out what happened to the USS Wasp. And the reason it's here is because it may have vanished in the Triangle.
There was no Twitter in 1815, so...
No,
couldn't come to these conclusions.
Just birds. It was just birds at that point.
Tweet.
In the forest. The next one is the USS Cyclops. And this is from the Naval Institute as well. The Cyclops' final mission was to transport 900 and 960 tons of coal from her home port in Norfolk, Virginia, to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
A lot of bad people for Christmas.
Yes. And bring back 1,100 tons of magnesium ore. Fun fact about magnesium. When you use it for fire starting, and you use it because it burns so hot, it burns hotter than the sun.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Hotter than the sun?
Yep.
So you could take like 2 leaves of spinach, right? Don't they have magnesium in them? And just...
I think they do, yeah.
Make the sun.
Yeah, that's how nuclear fission works, I think.
That's why you got to eat your leafy greens. It's just burning all that stuff in your tummy. It's good stuff.
It's good for you, but I don't think for that reason. She departed on the 9th of January in 1918 and arrived in Rio on the 20th of January, where she stayed for 2 weeks, unloading and loading cargo. On February 15th, 309 souls departed from Bahia, Brazil, the only scheduled stop before Baltimore, Maryland. 2 days later, at 1800 military time, on February 22nd, the ship embarked for Maryland, and she was expected to arrive on March 13th. The last known location of the Cyclops was an unplanned stop made in Barbados on March 3rd, with 1,800 nautical miles to go on a 4,844 nautical mile journey. I've got a map of the Cyclops' destination.
Okay.
So here. Starts in America, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they cut it in closer rather than going out.
Mm-hmm. Probably because it's closer, I think, if you do that.
Mm.
Or I wonder if it's just the currents let it do that. make it faster that way.
Yeah. These will be posted on the IG and the FB.
Yeah.
For the homies.
After the unscheduled stop at the Barbados, the passengers and crew were never seen again. Now, it's speculated that one officer, Kennard A. Neving, who was transferred from the ship in Rio, recounted his experience of the Cyclops. Neving wrote an article for the U.S. Naval Institute proceedings in 1969 about the problematic ship and her equally concerning crew. He described the commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander George W. Warley, as a, quote, gruff, eccentric salt of the old school, given to carrying a cane but possessing few other cultural amenities. He was a very indifferent seaman and a poor, overly cautious navigator. Way to just roast this guy after he died. He also said he was unfriendly and he was genuinely disliked by both officers and men.
Sounds like a good leader.
Yeah. Neving recounts an incident where one of the engines was turned over while a sailor was nearby, and the force of the propeller drew into the boat, knocking the sailor overboard, and he drowned. Neving blamed this tragedy on a captain who created a, quote, thoroughly demoralizing and disorganized crew because of his irrational methods of command. I don't think he liked him very much.
No, it sounds like he didn't like him and a lot of other people allegedly.
Allegedly. That's the big allegedly.
Part of the ship. No. Part of the ship. Part of the crew.
That's why I have that one.
What was that? What was the line? It was, you have to probably maybe scroll. It was, he's something of salt?
Yeah.
I like that. Salt
in the old school. I have to see it. Eccentric salt of the old school.
Salt of the old school.
It's cool.
I'm going to call Ben that. Ben, you're so salt of the old school.
I mean, he probably liked that, which it's kind of cool. That's not that much of an insult, I think. The ship reportedly was lost in Bermuda Triangle. Richard Winter investigated the Cyclops disappearance of his 1973 documentary, The Devil's Triangle. He suggested that a failed mutiny and implemented that there was a problem on the ship supporting Neving's claim. Now, other theories range from the magnesium exploding to capsizing to
magnesium exploding. Gee.
Yeah, imagine how hot that would be.
It's hotter than the sun. I've
it
heard.
Would destroy that ship.
I can't believe. I don't actually believe it's hotter than the sun.
Look it up.
That's wild. It makes no sense.
Look that up. Other theories range from the magnesium exploding to capsizing to a giant octopus rising from the sea and dragging the ship down.
Kraken.
Yeah. Still, other theories speculate the ship was sunk by a German U-boat. I don't think they had those back then. Well, I think they did, but barely. They're like not many.
It was more like a V back then.
But post-war records indicate that there were no U-boats in the area at the time. Another theory contended that they were operating a single engine because the cylinder broke, and this would have made the ship more susceptible to engineering casualties. And also there were results of hull damage, and also would result in hull damage and the separation of pipes that were not readily addressed by the captain. Now, some of these theories are obviously more likely than the others, but the true cause is unknown.
I think they mutinied, they threw him overboard, and they were all cheering, and they're like, who knows how to get back? And they were like, and then a couple people dove in, Captain, we were just playing. I'm a salt of the sea now.
They made him walk the plank with his cane. I mean, it's just north, really.
Yeah, but they don't know.
They don't know north?
Then it doesn't work.
You can look at the sun and figure out north, I think, or look at the North Star.
And they all went blind.
Yep, you're right. They didn't have their, what was that? Eclipse glasses on.
Yeah, they don't need that sun. We have this sun. Rub the magnesium together. It's toasty here, boys. That's the tropics.
I'm gonna Google it.
So, Charlie, you just did some research.
Yeah, Google says it doesn't burn hotter than the sun, but I've always heard that it has, and I don't really believe you Google AI.
Do you realize that, like, you can't get close to the sun because it's so hot?
Yeah, but, like,
I mean,
it's just a spark of magnesium.
I've eaten a lot of salads, bro.
Anyway, we've got one more ship story after this. So this is our last boat story, and this is about the SS Witchcraft.
Ooh.
The coolest name, for
Very
real.
cool. I feel like they're asking for something a little strange to happen here.
They kind of were. Yeah, they put a little...
Gonna disappear.
Not Michigan magic. What the hell is that state? Massachusetts magic on it.
Oh, okay.
So
Salem?
this is Salem. That's right. So this is summarized from Quester Files. So the Witchcraft was a personal ship that had 2 people on it, Dan Burke and Father Patrick Horgan. They took the boat off the coast of Miami in December to see the Christmas lights on the skyline of the city. But when they got into the dark sea, something stopped the boat. Now, they said they radioed that around 9 p.m. that they hit something, but they're not taking on water, so it wasn't an emergency. But they were stuck in the dark ocean. Now, at 9:03 p.m., the Coast Guard was on the way, but by the time they got there to where they were, it was 9:19, and the searchlights were searching, and they found nothing there. The Witchcraft was gone. The strangest thing is that the Coast Guard was searching. They searched 1,200 square miles around the water, and they still found nothing. The boat vanished. There was supposedly this boat was supposed to be unsinkable, and by unsinkable, I mean not that it wouldn't.
Just like the Titanic, right?
No, because this is a different kind of unsinkable. It means that it was so it had such a strong ability to float that even if it was like capsized, like it wouldn't go under.
Even if it hit an iceberg.
Even if it did hit an iceberg in Miami. But they didn't find any part of this boat. It was completely gone.
Is there any chance they just left? Like they realized they didn't need help and they were just like, oh, we're probably fine.
No, there's no way that would, because they had to report to the marina. They have to sign their boat back in. No, there's no way they could have just went home. And they were never heard from again. They're gone. Gone. Was it aliens? Maybe. It's just so weird because nothing really happened. Like, their motor stopped working. That's all it really was. And then they weren't taking on water, so they weren't sinking. It wasn't an emergency. But something happened in that from 9:03 to 9:19 where they vanished.
I wonder if maybe they just weren't reporting everything or they were trying to make it seem like it wasn't as bad as it was.
Why? To not get as much service?
To reduce panic.
In that situation, you need to panic.
Okay, you're thinking very logically right now.
I don't think that makes any sense to not panic in that kind of situation, even if it was like,
or maybe they were just wrong.
Okay, I see that. That makes more sense. But even still, it's going to completely sink in 17 minutes. Is that math right?
Yeah, 16.
16 minutes. That's even less. I don't
just enough time for a quick alien abduction.
Listen.
And the alien even took the boat.
They're like, this will be an interesting way to study water travel.
Well, then again, we've had in their stories where they picks up the car because the car ends up somewhere else.
And this was in the 60s, by the way. So that was the SS Witchcraft. Cool story.
Dope name.
Very cool name. Maybe they had maybe it was witchcraft.
A little potion.
It was a hex.
Potion on the ocean.
So this last story is not a boat story. This is the infamous Flight 19.
All right, you've kept us waiting. This better live up to it.
It's pretty weird. So it's weird not because of what happens per se, because of the behaviors of some of the people involved. December 5th, around 2 p.m., a plane crew of 5 planes of TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This crew was collectively known as Flight 19. They were conducting an exercise known as Navigation Problem 1, which is super fucking ironic. So this is a quote from a History Channel. They said, their triangular flight plan called for them to head east from the Florida coast and conduct a bombing run at a place called Hens and Chickens Shoals. And they would then turn north and proceed over the Grand Bahamas Island, which I've been to, is very cool, and fly southwest back to base. Save one plane that only carried 2 men. Each of the Avengers was crewed by 3 Navy men or Marines, most of whom had logged around 300 hours in the air. The flight leader was Lieutenant C. Charles Taylor, an experienced pilot and veteran who of several combat missions in the World War II Pacific Theater. End quote. So after the bombers dropped their practice bombs on the Hens and Chickens Shoal around 2:30 p.m., they started to make their way up. And that's when the commander, Taylor, became convinced, for some reason, that the compass was not working and it was wrong and they were flying in the wrong direction. The other men under him, they said to each other, quote, "I don't know where we are." One of the pilots said over the radio, "We must have got lost after that last turn." So the whole team was believing Taylor that they were lost. And it was getting serious. Eventually, it started getting later and later, and they're confused. And this is a quote from history again. They said, Lieutenant Robert F. Cox, another Navy flight instructor who was flying near the Florida coast, was the first to overhear the patrol's radio communications. He immediately informed the air station of the situation and then contracted the Avengers to ask if they needed assistance. He said, "Both my compass are out, and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida." Taylor said, his voice sounding anxious. He also said, "I'm over land, but it's broken. I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down." Now, Taylor claims didn't make sense to anybody. He made his scheduled pass over the Hens and Chickens Shoal in the Bahamas less than an hour earlier. He now believed his planes had somehow drifted hundreds of miles off the coast and ended up in the Florida Keys. The 27-year-old had just transferred to Fort Lauderdale from Miami, and many have since speculated that he may have confused some of the islands in the Bahamas for the Keys. I also do want to note here that pilots, when they're not just using their instruments, they're also using the horizon. It's an important tool for them to find the horizon between the sky and the ground or the sea. But it can become really confusing because the sea and the sky are essentially the same color. I think that plays into a factor here of why he got so confused.
I thought you were going to say they use their eyes.
Well, yeah.
That's the second thing they do.
That's also something they use. You could say it's an instrument.
Use the Force, Luke.
That might have helped him here a little bit. If he just closed his eyes.
So he thought he was in the Keys, but they're saying maybe he was in the Bahamas because he's he's not as knowledgeable with the area.
Yeah, there's no way he could have been in the Keys.
They don't have big signs that say this is Key West.
I mean, he's like
Square.
He's hundreds of miles away from the Keys. That doesn't make sense for him to be there because he was just in the Bahamas, so it must have been the Bahamas.
Unless it was Dimension.
Unless he just jumped Dimension, but also all five of them must have jumped too.
Well, you in one plane.
What?
One plane, right?
No, this is a 5-plane team.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Now, typically in this circumstance, pilots are told to fly west to use the sun, not just their instruments, to fly west by using the sun to navigate towards the mainland. However, Taylor was convinced that he somehow was in the Gulf of Mexico and he needed to fly northeast to get to Florida. So he thought he was
east of Florida.
He was east of Florida, but he thought he was west of Florida somehow.
So they say fly west, but he didn't want to fly west because he thought then he'd end up in like California or Texas. Yeah, Texas.
Well, he thought he wouldn't make it that far.
Oh, in his plane.
Mm-hmm. So he's like, I need to go northeast. That's the only way to safety here. This is another quote from history. Some of his pilots seem to have recognized that he was making a mistake. They said, "Damn it," one man griped over the radio. "If we would just fly west, we would get home." Now, they did eventually get Taylor to turn around and go west. But he eventually did lose it again after 6 p.m. when, quote, he seemed to have canceled the order once again and changed his directions northeast. He said to his team, "We didn't go far enough east." Now, his pilots probably argued against this decision. Some investigators even believe that one plane broke off and flew in a different direction, but most followed their commander's lead. Flight 19's radio transmission soon became increasingly faint as it went out to sea. Now, when fuel began to run low, Taylor was heard prepping his men for the potential crash landing in the ocean. He said to his men, "All planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless we see landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." A few minutes later, the Avengers lost radio communication and it was replaced by an eerie buzz of static. And that is the fateful tale of Flight 19. Now, the strange thing is that the next day, the Navy was out searching for the presumed wreckage. Another quote from history said the search party spent 5 days combing through more than 300,000 square miles of territory to no avail. They said, quote, they just vanished. Navy Lieutenant David White later recalled. We had hundreds of planes out looking, and we searched over land and water for days, and nobody ever found the bodies or any debris. End quote. So that is the tale of Flight 19.
Wow, it feels like he just led them astray really, really badly.
He did, but the question is, how did this really experienced pilot, over 300 hours at least, how did this happen to him? That's the question of the Bermuda Triangle.
It's weird, too, because it seemed like there was information we had as if we were there, but no one made it back to give this information that's in these reports.
They had the radio communications. Like what he said to the team. Like that stuff, that was documented. That's in it's like if you type in Teams, that's documented.
I get the speaking, but that just could be journalistic work. So we don't know if somebody separated.
No, that plane that broke off.
Yeah,
we don't know. I assume that plane also crashed.
Do we know it broke off?
No, we don't know. It's a guess.
There was one rebel.
But that's my main question. If that plane did break off, did it land? Did it make it back? I think it did not, because we would have that testimony.
We would know.
Yeah. So that's the tale. All right. So let's talk about this in the discussion. My mouth hurts. So on our scale, from believable, viable, skeptical, unbelievable, we talk about things, we rank things, and this is one of the biggest things to rank. This is going to be like, in a couple of years, we're going to look back like the Bermuda Triangle. What a big story. And I think it's so big, it's so well known, just because it does date back for so long. And this was definitely one of the first conspiracies out there. I think it was before even JFK. I don't remember exactly when that happened, but I think it was a couple of years before that. So this is
what year was Flight 19?
64, I think. Okay. That's when it was published. This is what coined the term Bermuda Triangle.
Okay.
This story being published in a magazine. And that magazine coined that term.
Okay.
And that's what brought it to the consciousness of people. It's why it's been around for so long. You asked earlier, why is it so well known? I think Flight 19 is the real reason why it's so well known, because it's just a strange case. Like, what the fuck happened?
Well, I think maybe Flight 19 is what initiated it. But I would say the majority of people who know the Bermuda Triangle probably don't know that story.
I don't agree with that.
But it's
I think it's not. I think it's been overshadowed at this point.
Yeah, I think it's become more mythical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you ask 10 people, random ages, what is a paranormal triangle? They'd say Bermuda Triangle. But then I think if you said what has happened there, I think people would be like, well, ships have sunk and planes have... But I don't think they could give this specific Flight 19 example.
Right.
But it's become larger than life.
I agree with that. And I feel like I was so scared to tackle this. I don't know about you, but because it is so mythical in the culture, like people know that name, but diving into it, you don't get a lot of experiences, like especially nowadays. Like there's no Reddit stories really.
There were no Reddit stories. That's creative writing, testing ground. I'm sure
there were no sleeps about it.
Yeah.
But nothing like I was out there with my uncle. We saw a spaceship. There's nothing like that. And that kind of makes sense. That's also pretty common with some of these bigger stories too. They almost become too big.
Yes, the lore is bigger than the actual credible evidence that you'll find online.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the theories. Let's talk about some of the scientific theories and then the paranormal theories. Actually, let's go paranormal first. The first one was the lost city of Atlantis.
No,
not at all, right?
Even if it's there, it doesn't equate to
lost ships.
Or even like Flight 19. What would Atlantis have to do with that? They were just shining a beacon up in his eyes and I can't see.
And even a beacon here doesn't really make sense because he thought he was somewhere else.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah. He thought he wasn't in the Bermuda Triangle, which is interesting to me. In Flight 19, I'm getting sidetracked by Flight 19 again. I just really like the story. Really quick, one of the nicknames for the airplane that they were in was called the Flying Gas Can.
Oh.
Because it was known to catch on fire.
Awesome.
Yeah. So they were not doing really well.
Well, they're flying over water. They're okay. Apparently not, actually.
No, not really.
By the way,
Yeah.
that whole, like, even outside of paranormal, outside of anything unusual or strange, the idea of being in a plane, not knowing where you are, not knowing the direction you're going in, and, like, if you're in an airplane as a guest, customer, and all of a sudden you start crashing, there's no anxiety. It just happens. It's like if you slam your thumb in a door. There's no mental anguish leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are going through the mental anguish of, I don't know if we're going to make it.
Yeah.
We might have to break. You know, I mean, they're going through all the steps, all the anxiety that lead up to it. And then for them still to, like, crash.
Yeah.
Dude, and he's like, if one of us gets under 10 gallons, we all go down. I'd be like, okay, sure thing, buddy. You know, but then again, I don't know how long 10 gallons lasts.
I don't think it's
in a plane, like in a car, you know, that can last a long time.
Yeah, I think in a plane it's probably like a couple minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, but that whole situation is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like that is...
It's like almost like going like in a much less extreme example, like you're going hiking with friends, right? Like the ritual. Like it starts like a normal hike.
Yep, you go in the woods.
And then it's just like, what's happening? We're lost, but we shouldn't be lost, but we are.
And I guess that timeline would be like food. If you don't have food, I guess you'll die. But like this is like crashing. You know what I mean? Like crashing in water, not knowing if you'll ever be found.
Mm-hmm. And they weren't.
So it is very scary.
Yeah. Back to aliens. Do you think aliens might have any part of this?
They might be responsible for like a case or two.
Yeah.
But not 1,000. No, I don't think they are the reason the Bermuda Triangle is what it is known as.
I don't personally either. As fun as it is, I do like idea of aliens hunting in certain places, but
I'll give them one. They can have one person.
Yeah, just like the water spouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's aliens either. And lastly, wormholes.
Wormhole is a weird... Wormhole isn't what I think of. I mean,
interdimensional travel, I suppose.
Yeah, there's just like a rip. Like it could be, like I said it before, it could be 1 square mile.
Yeah.
It could be, I mean, it could be more than that, but like it could be one tiny section. There's just something there where it's like a thin veil to a different dimension and people slip through it. Out of all the paranormals, that's the one I'm most likely to lean into. And I'm also not saying I believe that. That's just the easiest one for me to buy. Like, I don't think there's an entity out there doing it. I don't think it's aliens. I think it's more likely to be a strange, naturally occurring phenomenon. If you consider the dimensional naturally occurring. Like the energy vortexes we talked about, where there's like the energy is really good, or like places where magnetism is just different.
Well,
places
definitely
like
this place.
that place in Venezuela where there's always lightning storms.
Yeah.
You know, like Earth does have its strange places. And those are over land. So it's easy to physically stay there and examine them and test things. If it's like a small stretch over water, and you can't pinpoint it, you know what I mean? Like it'd be really hard to test and to examine. So that's why that is easier for me to swallow if it is a less, but I mean, that could still somehow, I mean, we're going to classify it as paranormal because it's strange.
Yeah.
But it could be a naturally occurring strange, but that's the one I buy into the most. Were there any really far out paranormal theories that you didn't include because they were like bonkers?
I mean, yeah, there are even stranger ones. I didn't go that deep into them. Honestly, these were a little hard to find. But people go crazy with the Bermuda Triangle. These are the most rational ones to me, which is saying something.
Sharknado water spouts.
Yeah, the water spouts, that's a natural one, which I think is a little outlandish. I don't think that's really real at all. I mean, it's real, but like not to the extent where it could be the reason for this.
Clearly, that didn't happen in Flight 19, so it's not like it's the reason for all of it.
Right. I like the dimensional rift to an extent, or the wormhole to an extent, like the witchcraft. That makes a lot of sense for me in that circumstance. I don't know how they would have. Maybe they just drifted. Maybe they didn't put their anchor down. They just drifted into a portal.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other question is, if that's what happened, then why didn't the Coast Guard drift into it as well?
Maybe they didn't go to the exact location.
Maybe.
What year was that? Do you remember?
It was 60s or 70s. It was 1967.
So why couldn't Flight 19 pinpoint their location? Like, why couldn't people on land know exactly where Flight 19 was?
What do you mean?
Like, was there no technology in the 60s where people on land could know,
like GPS tracking,
like radar, just like no, like, oh, I'm picking up this plane, it's here.
I don't know.
Did that stuff not exist in the 60s?
I think it wasn't as anywhere near as intelligent as it is today.
But the boat could do that.
What do you mean?
The boat,
yes,
was able. They called, so they must have been able to tell them.
Yeah, but they weren't that far off the coast. Like they had like landmarks.
Really? It was that close?
It was very close. Yeah.
Okay.
Like it was only a couple, like not even like a mile off the coast of Miami. That's why they were able to that precisely find where the witchcraft would have been.
Okay.
But like the Flight 19, that was all over Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Another story that I talked about before on the Ghost Ship episode was the Mary Celeste. Do you remember that vaguely?
I remember those stories. Which one was that?
It was the first one about the sailor that took his family from like Italy, and like it might have been a mutiny, but everyone was dead on the ship.
Okay.
You remember that vaguely?
Yeah.
That happened in the Bermuda Triangle. I didn't want to tell it again because I already told it, but
sure.
It's just an interesting story because everyone was gone.
Yeah, go check out our Ghost Ships episode if you want more of these type of stories.
Yeah. So natural phenomenon. I think some of the natural phenomenon can really explain some of the situations.
I think it's more likely to explain Flight 19 if you consider just he became directionally challenged and it wasn't working.
I don't know. I don't think it does.
He might have just had a bad bout of anxiety and self-doubt at a really bad time.
To me, the Flight 19, what happened to him almost feels like early dementia. In a sense of like, maybe not, that's not correct, but like, he knew where he was. He knew where he was. How, I don't understand how he thought he could have been thousands of miles in a different spot. I really think something happened to him mentally. Maybe he just broke. Maybe he thought he was somewhere
I could have
else.
been anxiety. No, I really think panic and anxiety and like not wanting to put his team in a bad spot
It definitely made it worse.
Yeah, or maybe he just saw something. Like if he truly believed that it was the Keys and not the Bahamas, I mean, like there might have been other things he saw, even though it was mostly just water. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think that's more of a him thing.
I do think it was a him thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why the other guys couldn't talk him out of it. They're like, Commander, this doesn't make any sense.
They just all pull back, shoot a missile. They're like, none of us saw anything.
Yes, we all got a promotion, huh? But that one, it bothered me. Let's talk about the Gulf Stream. I think that's a great idea. A great idea about what's going on there. I think boats sink and they get taken away by this current.
It would make sense why you can't find them.
Yeah. It takes them into the Atlantic, probably farther than we even know. And it's just washed away. And that's why they don't find them in that area, because it's not in that area anymore.
Right. Now, that doesn't answer the witchcraft one, but for not finding remains of other boats.
Yeah, like the USS Cyclops. That could be the reason for that.
Do they have to sink to hit the current, or even on the surface of the water? I wonder. Because some things float. Yeah,
I think because how powerful the stream is, I think it causes these rapids in the ocean.
Yeah.
And I think even if it's on the surface, I think it can get grabbed and dragged. Now, I'm not an oceanographer, oceanologist. Is that how you say it?
I'm not commenting.
I'm not no ocean scientist, so I don't know that much about it. But from what I understand, watching Finding Nemo several times, I know it's a very powerful thing.
You know, it's like I always talk in other content we put out about how much I don't think Jaws is a horror movie and stuff like that. Like, just don't go in the water. But when you mentally put yourself in these situations, like sinking ship, airplane, and it's just like you look everywhere and you know for hundreds of miles there's no land. I mean, that is absolutely bone-chilling terrifying. It really is.
I mean, when I flew over to England, we flew over the ocean.
Yeah.
And I slept through most of it because I was freaked out about it.
Yeah,
and I've been on planes before. Like it's scary. It's scary if you really do think about it.
That's why you shouldn't think about it.
It's why you should not. You should put on a movie or go to sleep.
Don't listen to this while you're flying.
Absolutely, unless you want. There's a thing. Have you heard of this? It's on. It's a TikTok trend. Younger people have been going on planes, turning off their cell phones, turning off their computers, locking in their chairs.
Oh, and just staring
at the flight map.
Yeah.
I think it's called raw dogging the flight map. Or
it
something.
is. Somebody did like 14 hours or 12 hours.
What?
That's not the flex y'all think it is.
It's not really. It's not. It's really strange to me.
Also, just no. They could just be lying too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's just like,
yeah, Dad, Tyler. I know.
It's. I guess congratulations on your mental fortitude. I mean, I can get lost in my brain and daydream and stuff, but like, I'm not gonna purposefully withhold.
Yeah,
podcasts or music.
I'm gonna listen to something. I'm gonna watch something.
The worst things are when I used to forget to pre-download like podcasts.
Yeah,
because you don't get the Wi-Fi up there. Mm-hmm. Like, so I started because when I was flying a lot for my previous job. Like, I started making sure I had at least like 4 or 5 episodes downloaded to my phone.
Yeah,
I'd have to rely on it to stream.
So, I said the name of the exercise for Flight 19 was navigation problem number 1. Super ironic. Just extremely ironic looking back. I mean,
problem number 1 was Taylor. Was that his name?
Taylor.
That was the problem number 1.
Charles Taylor.
Imagine if it was Tyler. Charles Tyler.
Charles Tyler Taylor. Just Charles Tyler.
Just our names.
Just our names.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. That means the podcast blows up, I think.
We could do him for Halloween. You could be him, I'll be a plane.
No. I was wondering where you're going.
Or I'll be a plane, you could be a water spout.
Yeah. It'd be a good water spout. So the methane gas. So the theory of the methane gas, I don't think that really holds a lot of weight. I think I mentioned that when we were going over it. It's my least favorite. I think my favorites of the naturals combined are malfunctions, because that's what a lot of people think it is. It's just natural malfunctions in the machines, and storms, instant weather.
Yeah, the storms are, and you said it yourself, I asked you earlier, you said that storms do align with some of the disappearances.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just give it a big, well, duh.
Yeah.
Hurricane Alley.
And they didn't have the kind of technology in the 60s, 70s that we have now to predict this kind of weather, and especially during like the 1800s.
It keeps happening the same time every year. One year we'll be ready for it.
Yeah. And also that mixed with the currents, I think those together make like a recipe for disaster.
It's a rough spot to boat
or
fly, apparently, if you have Taylor.
That's true. And there's a lot of people who just think that the Bermuda Triangle is not special. It's just a piece of land, of water. And there's a lot of places that have similar amounts of accidents, disappearances, and it's just another place on Earth.
It's definitely possible that its notoriety is bigger than its stories.
I think so too. I think there are a lot of missing things that happen in this area.
Well, it's a weird. I think we can acknowledge that it's a strange piece of water, land, or the Earth, without it being like spooky.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's talk about some of the stories now. So the USS Wasp, the first ship in the 1800s. I don't know if that's actually really attributed to the Bermuda Triangle. In my opinion, I think it was probably just taken because if you think about it like this, they were big pieces of property, probably easy to take if you killed people or are willing to kill people, and they're worth a lot of money and value. So I think someone just took it. Took it.
Yeah, I think that I can buy into that.
So I don't think that's necessarily a disappearance. Like if you steal a car, you paint over it and rename it different car.
It's mine now. Don't look at the title or the license.
The USS Cyclops, though, that one, it disappeared in the Triangle. It seems like they're having some kind of issues because they made an unscheduled stop.
Right.
So
in Barbados?
Where was it? Yeah, they stopped in Barbados. That's great. And then after that, they were just missing in the triangle. So there were a couple of theories about that. A couple were really good. A couple were kind of silly. 1,100 tons of 1,100 tons of magnesium ore. That could definitely sink a ship if it goes off.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Or even a mutiny.
Because they did not like the captain.
Yeah, they didn't like him. That was documented, or at least by the one guy. Maybe he just had a grudge. The idea is that either it's mutiny or I like those two ideas. I don't think a sea creature dragged it down. I don't think that really happens.
No, I feel like something happened to cause it to sink, and then we got the current.
Yeah, I think so too. I think those are two really strong pieces of evidence.
There's no way to know. I mean, there's going to be no answer on this podcast. No one knows. No one knows.
I think those are strong ideas, but you're right. We can't answer it.
The Megalodon.
The Meg. It was the Meg.
Obviously.
Yeah, so that's the Cyclops. And then the Witchcraft. Super cool idea, or super crazy story. It just stopped off the coast of Miami.
This is the strangest one.
I agree with that. I agree. It's just
the
so
coolest
weird.
name, strangest one.
Mm-hmm.
16 minutes, something happened. Unless, like,
I have no idea how to explain that.
I can't explain why this is true in my brain. It feels like they either overreacted or they didn't take it seriously and they just left. I can't explain why that's how I feel.
Okay.
My feeling is they called it in, either it was worse than they thought and it like sunk in 16 minutes.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't as bad as they thought. And they're like, we don't need help or we don't want to get in trouble and we're just going to go.
And then they ran off to Bahamas and changed their names and fell in love.
What year was this? It's
67.
Yeah, I don't think this is like, I think they could just go back.
They're never heard of again.
What does that even mean?
I mean, no one,
like their families?
Yeah, they're gone.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Or they just gave up and they're just like, we're not going to look into these people anymore.
I don't think so. I don't buy that. I really don't. Something weird happened with the Witchcraft.
It's the strangest one.
Yeah.
I think that's why my brain goes there because it is the strangest one and there's no
logical answer.
Yeah, in 16 minutes. Or they left and then they went out further. They're like, "Oh, we're fine." And they went out and then they sunk.
What
like something bad happened.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, we don't want to just wait here." And they kept going out. Did they own the boat or is it okay?
It was Dan's.
Okay, so they go out there, they call, they're like, "No, we don't want to get in trouble or we don't need help, we're fine." They keep going out. It's not as bad as we thought. It was as bad or worse than they thought, and then it sunk and they don't know where they are.
Well, the problem with the boat was that it stopped working. Like they couldn't make it move.
But then they did. It turned.
And then they did. Okay.
And they're like, "Oh, it's fine," but then it stalled again and the Megalodon.
The Meg ate it.
Atlantis.
I see. They ate it.
It's the Atlantis' Rancor is the Megalodon.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. I see that. Or what if it just sunk really quick?
In 16 minutes? I guess.
I don't believe it. I don't buy it. But what if something extraordinary happened? What if a meteor fell out of the sky?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
People would have reported seeing that.
I have no reason to think about what happened. I have no idea what happened here. And then the last one, Flight 19. We kind of talked about that already.
About that one, yeah.
It's just really sad.
It is sad and scary.
But yeah, those are the stories, the theories. So going off that, where do you rank the Bermuda Triangle?
How are we rating it?
Do you think something magical, mystical is going on in the Bermuda Triangle, or is it just a piece of land?
Well, are you saying that the natural occurring theory? Are we saying believable is paranormal, or believable is even like the currents and stuff?
No, believable is paranormal. If you think it's something beyond normal, paranormal, if you will, you're going to go believable. But if you think it's just natural, you're going to go unbelievable.
Skeptical, and I'll allow the thought, the entertainment of dimension, and the occasional alien.
Yeah.
But that's the whole world for me.
That's true.
The occasional alien.
For real, honestly, from what I researched, it just seems to me that the natural just makes more sense here. Except in the case of the fucking witchcraft. That makes no sense to me. And that's why I'm going to go skeptical as well.
I wonder how long it takes an average boat to sink.
I have no idea. Depends on the size of the boat, I think. That was the Bermuda Triangle. Thank you for listening to this episode. What a journey.
Big old triangle. We did the big one now.
Yeah, so
it's been done.
There's only so many left.
There's only so many triangles.
There are other triangles. The Bridgewater Triangle, you need that one.
We'll create our own triangles.
Well, we will. We'll make one in Ohio.
Yes. We'll do Akron, Cleveland.
Yeah, Toledo.
Yeah. Ooh, what's happening there?
A lot of farmland. I think Oberlin's in that triangle.
Mystery corn. The vanishing corn.
So something we like to do on these has been reading Spotify reviews that have been left, and I'm going to read a couple.
I shout out all the people that can do it because I still don't have access. Charlie doesn't have access. Producer Ben does, but for whatever reason, when we go to Spotify on our phones, it doesn't allow us to leave comments or look at comments. I can only do it from logging in on the computer. So if anyone has answers, if anyone here works for Spotify, has a friend that works for Spotify,
send us a DM.
Let us know what we have to do so we can see it on our phone.
Yeah. But anyway, so first one is from Setsun. They said, "Oh, hell yeah. I love alien-focused episodes."
So this is the last episode.
Yes, it is. Yeah. What was the last one?
It was the
Extraterrestrial
Encounters Volume 2.
We've said on the show before, when we finish an episode, they leave our bodies and minds.
Yes.
The next one is from Anthony. Not gonna lie, Rough Trucks the Smoocher sounds like a guy you don't want to meet in prison.
That's your nickname, and you did say you were gonna be the alien smoocher.
Awesome episode, fellas. I appreciate you. I don't know. I'm kind of getting into Rough Chuck. I like it.
I like Rough Chuck. I think it's rugged.
I don't like Chuck in general, but Rough Chuck,
I feel like Rough Chuck can split some firewood. You know what I mean?
I think he could too. I don't know if I am a Rough Chuck really, but and the last one from a name I'm not gonna try to say. That's like 25 syllables. They said, "Great episode as always. This one is one of my favorite podcasts. I love you guys. Keep up the good work. I'm also from Ohio. Hey, shout out Ohio." Alliance, I don't know if I should say the actual city.
Well, you didn't say their name, so.
I did not. Alliance to be exact, and trust me when I say Black Panthers in these woods.
The ABCs.
All right, peace out.
You know, you're not quite in our triangle, but you're close.
That's very close to
You're a little east.
Alliance, Ohio. I don't know exactly where that is, honestly.
It is like if you're going towards Youngstown.
East. Oh, okay. All right.
You hit it on the way to Youngstown.
Yeah, that's not in the triangle.
It's not. Good for you. It's safer.
Oberlin's in the triangle?
You know where all your corn is.
Oh, Strongsville's in that triangle.
Yeah.
Strongsville's a weird place.
Brexville?
It's a very strange place, too.
Strange place with a little money.
That's true. Also Strongsville, too. But anyway, this is a lot of fun to talk about the Bermuda Triangle. I appreciate you guys for listening. Without, listeners, I'm not saying there wouldn't be a point. We'd still probably meet up and talk about this stuff, but I'm glad you're in on the conversation too.
It makes us feel a lot less weird just talking about this stuff.
That's true. But if you like the show and you want other people to hear the show, the best way to do that is just word of mouth. You tell a friend about it. You tell a coworker about it. Tell maybe not your in-laws, or maybe your in-laws if they're cool. I don't know. Someone that you like and someone that would trust you and your creative choices. Yeah. Don't tell your enemies. Or do. Enemies leave 1-star reviews, I feel like. Actually, yeah. Don't do that because we're not about that life. And if you're all caught up on our episodes and you want a little bit more, there is so much bonus content going back to May of 2021 out there on Patreon. Quizzes. We watch Netflix movies together. We rate horror movies. We respond to your social media questions that we post every single Monday. Listener submission interviews. There's so much stuff over on Patreon. So if you're all caught up and you want a little bit more, make sure to go check that out. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast that's about to go buy a boat and call it the Witchcraft 2. We appreciate you guys. As always, I'm Tyler. I'm Charlie. And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre. A podcast as bizarre as you are.